3.5 years after the Grenfell disaster. There are dozens of high-rise blocks in Kent, Sussex and Surrey still covered with flammable cladding. For the people living inside, it's a nightmare. They're paying out hundreds of extra pounds a month for homes they can't sell, and many are terrified that a fire could have devastating consequences. Marcella Whittingdale has been speaking to some residents in Bexhill.
The 8-storey landmark building on Bexhill seafront is home to a mixture of residents, from first-time buyers to pensioners like Elaine Stevens. Late last year, surveyors found the cladding on the building a fire risk and recommended major repairs. Insurance costs skyrocketed and bills for temporary safety measures started to pile up.
Basically, I'm not sleeping. I'm awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, wandering the flat, wondering where I can find some money, and I have no way of doing that. It's with you every day. You don't feel safe, you can't see a future, you don't know what's going to happen. I fear bankruptcy, I fear homelessness.
As well as a 400% rise in insurance, service charges doubled. Residents are also facing costs for a fire alarm system to replace 24-hour fire wardens, known as Waking Watch.
My monthly outgoings just to pay for the Waking Watch and the huge insurance hikes, I have to find an extra £550 per month on top of everything else. It's just crippling us. And the fear factor is just, I mean, yeah, I'm living in fear, definitely. Anything can happen. And we now know, from what we understand, like Grenfell, if the outside of the building catches, we're just going to go up. And it's terrifying. I was going to try and sell my flat this year, and I can't now. It's worth nothing.
The 2017 Grenfell Tower fire exposed the dangers of flammable cladding. The government have since announced a £1.6 billion building safety fund for renovations. But critics predict that will fall far short of what remedial costs will actually end up being. And many buildings, like the landmark here in Bexhill, were also found to have other serious faults, like missing fire breaks, which are not covered by the scheme at all.
The original developers and construction firm who worked on the landmark both went into administration before the build was finished. The bank had to call in receivers to make sure the flats were completed, while the insurance company that held the 10-year new build warranty has also gone out of business.
The current freeholders bought the property in 2016. They told us they've made 2 applications for government funding and fronted some of the costs for a fire alarm by offering a loan. But residents still have no idea how much the full price to remedy the problems with the building will be, or how much they will end up paying or when. All this on top of the daily stress of being urged to stay home and stay safe in a property they say feels anything but.
Let's go to Ghani first of all. As we said, 3.5 years after Grenfell, people like those we've just heard from are living in fear, paying out hundreds of extra pounds a month, and crucially still have no idea how much they're going to have to contribute in total to make their homes safe. Are you shocked by that?
I'm not. I wouldn't use the word shocked, because I have constituents who are in touch, and we know that this is an incredibly difficult situation, and the uncertainty doesn't help whatsoever. But a couple of things, if I may. The government has put together a pot of funding, as your report showed, over £1 billion, and I, along with a number of Conservative colleagues, think and believe that fund should be a lot larger. So it was good to read in the papers today that the Chancellor may be coming forward with an even bigger pot of funding, around 5 billion or more. I just read that in the paper, so I'm not sure if that...
I read that too, and if that is true, that's interesting. 5 billion sounds a lot, but the Housing Select Committee believes the total cost of all this will be nearer 15 billion. That's an awful lot of money still to find. And you mentioned certainty. That's what those residents want. They want to know they don't have to worry about this in the long term, that the government will sort this out, because it's not their fault, is it?
No, it's not their fault, and you're right. Certainty is the biggest issue. It's causing a huge amount of stress to people that write into me as well. I think it's interesting to note, and the point I wanted to make was that the construction companies over the last few years have made a combined profit of around £15 billion. So we need to I mean, I would argue that we need to do more to make sure construction companies are doing more to try and resolve this issue as well as of course, making sure that if there is this new pot of funding, that it is a big enough pot to take care of people where this, you know, buying your first home that's been caught up in this cladding crisis is probably your first investment or your last investment, but the only investment you're going to make, you know, for a long period of time. So we need certainty, definitely need more funding, but we also need to hold construction companies to account as well.
OK. Trist Osborne, the thing is, as we saw from Marcella's report, some of these companies have gone out of business or don't exist anymore. It's incredibly difficult, actually, isn't it, to find those who you could argue are responsible?
Absolutely. We know that 700,000 people in this country are impacted. 3 million people cannot sell their homes or their flats. This is a significant issue. And I heard Nusrat speak then, and I have to ask, they've had 3.5 years of this. Rishi Sunak saying in the Times this morning that he was prioritising this. I'm afraid we've seen very little evidence that he has been prioritising this at all. And the reality is he was also suggesting this morning, and I think this is an outrage, that the individuals will still have to contribute even after the government steps up to the plate. And we've seen no timetable on that whatsoever. So I do have to ask, what are Conservative backbenchers doing? After 3.5 years of inaction and dither, nothing has actually materialised. And I'm afraid it's just simply not good enough for those people. And they need certainty, and they need the government to stump up the money, and they need to hold the developers to account as well.
No, it's a lot of your backbench colleagues who've been putting pressure on the government along with Trist, but you so far haven't been one of them. For example, you weren't one of the MPs who signed the amendment to the fire safety bill to ensure the cost doesn't fall on homeowners.
Well, you can put pressure on government in a multitude of ways, to be honest, and I think that was slightly choice words that were spoken earlier on. It is Conservative colleagues who have been working with government to ensure that we've already had a pot of over £1 billion in place, and also now working to ensure not only do we have more funding, but we have absolute accountability, far more transparency around the issue, but fundamentally working with construction companies and those that have, you know, garnered a huge amount of profit, £15 billion in recent years, that they're also contributing to this as well.
Should homeowners caught up in this pay anything, do you think, towards the cost?
It's tricky for me to respond to that, but look, I think what we need to have absolute transparency and accountability, but most of all, certainty for the issue. Let's see what the Chancellor's going to come forward with. All the soundings of the paper today are incredibly positive, all down to fantastic Conservative colleagues who've been pushing on this issue for some time. So let's just wait and see, but hopefully we won't have to wait for too long.
You don't have a personal view on this, whether you think it's fair to ask people living in these flats to pay for it?
Well, it depends what we're asking them to pay for. There are different textures to this. This is the issue. So I think it's right that funding has been made available. I think it's good to read that there's going to be more funding coming down the line as well. And it's absolutely essential that we have as much certainty around this issue as soon as we can.
OK, let's move on. Thank you very much.